Hey everyone, Steph and Superfloof here. Welcome back to our channel where we delve into the world of Power Platform development. In this video, we're diving deep into a real-world example of adaptive cards. We're going to explore their potential and learn how to create stunning user experiences. This app also leverages deep linking and delegation handling, all real-world use cases. But wait, there's more. We're about to spill the beans on how adaptive cards are redefining communication, leaving traditional emails in the dust by seamlessly integrating with Microsoft Teams. Before we start, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss any of our Power Platform tutorials. We love hearing from you as part of our growing community of Power Platform enthusiasts. Okay, now picture this. No more sifting through endless emails, no more missing critical updates. With adaptive cards, we're introducing a communication revolution. Adaptive cards seamlessly integrate within Microsoft Teams channels and chats, transforming your collaborative experience. Imagine having all your app notifications and updates right where your team is already working, creating a cohesive and productive workflow. Now, let's see how we can build adaptive cards from scratch. We'll guide you through this step by step, so don't worry if you're new to this, we've got you. Let's get started. As always, let's start with the finished product. In this use case, the client had two separate systems that could not talk to each other. So the human beings in the middle needed a way to report records that were different on the two systems. As you see here on the main screen, we have records reported in the last 7 days. So we have at a quick glance, we can tell if someone has already reported a duplicate. We can go to review existing reports, and this is where delegation came in. This could have over 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 records. So we had to build this app with delegation in mind. Please comment below if you want to see that part of the app in more detail. And for right now, we're going to look at submitting a new report. When we click submit a new report and we select a potential duplicate type, then on the right, we have a gallery that filters out anything that's new or an initial research so people can see if someone has already submitted this report. I'm going to duplicate this one here from today, test 4, that should be test 4.5. So if I enter test 4, and the link I'm just going to copy because I'm a lazy IT person. Whoop. And we really want this one to be test 4.5. Yes, I know that already exists, but give me just a second here. Because this was the other part of the app. We wanted to make sure that end users saw that even if they didn't see in the right, that we had a duplicate detection. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that in detail as well. For right now, we're going to hit cancel because I've already submitted this one. And what we want to focus on today are adaptive cards. So when a new record is submitted, back in Teams, a Power Automate card is sent to the submitter. It's always a good best practice to let the submitter know that they have been heard. Their message has been received, so they don't accidentally submit 4 or 5 or 6, not knowing that the original one was received. Here we have the logo of the company, very Maine Coon appropriate. The fact that a new duplicate contact card was created, that I created it, some details, and here we have deep linking. And when we click View full report details, it takes me back directly to that record in a view-only mode. Let me know in the comments if you want to get into that as well. And if we go back to Teams, we also have a team, the people in the middle that actually remediate these reports. If we look here at this adaptive card, we have again the same deep linking, but we're also able to assign the remediation. In this case, I'm going to assign it to Baron. We don't have to go back to the app to do it. If someone sees this, they know what it's about, they can simply assign it to somebody, and the message changes. So everyone in the team knows that someone has already looked at this and that we're good to go. In future portions of this that we're not going to get into today, then Baron would receive an adaptive card. He could do his work directly from Teams. He doesn't have to go to SharePoint, which is the database backend for this, and he doesn't have to go back to the team app. One pane of glass makes everything so much simpler. Now, if we go back to the notification that the original user received and click on full report details again, we see here how the data has been written back to SharePoint. Now let's look at the flow. This flow isn't fleshed out for the entire process. It's just for purposes here. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see more detail, the portion where Baron gets notified and he does his work, for example. So starting at the top, when an item is created in my SharePoint list, then we get into posting the card to a chat or channel. This is a lot of JSON, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how easy it is to get this code. So we're using the flow bot to chat with the individual that submitted the item. And here we are capturing the information from that ticket. All of this translates into this. I'll step you through all of it. Then as we go down the flow, our second step is the notification to the team. This portion here, where we can't see it because I've already made a change to it, we're capturing who is being assigned to it. From that step, we have to do a remediation step of getting the user profile of the person from that people picker field. And then we're updating, the last step for this flow, we're updating the SharePoint list item with who it was assigned to. It looks complicated. There's a lot of code in here. I'm not great with JSON, but I'll show you the easy way to capture all of this information. And this is where Microsoft has made it so easy to leverage adaptive cards. I've gone to adaptivecards.io/designer. I'll put the link in the comments below. And it starts us off with a template. We can see the layout of the template on the left, visual. Depending on how you learn, you know, people think about things differently. We have visual on the left, we have the code on the bottom, and we have the card structure on the right. Well, let's say this isn't exactly what we're looking for. We can always click New Card up on the top left. We could start from blank, but why reinvent the wheel? Here we have all sorts of different options. We have everything from flight itinerary to flight details, expense reports, some fun stuff. Here we have some cool pictures, you know, all sorts of things that we could leverage to make our app the way we want it, the adaptive card the way we want it. But for now, I'm going to use this because it's pretty much what we want. I missed a crucial step here. At the time of this recording, the adaptive cards designer defaults to 1.6. However, that is not currently working with Power Automate and Teams. You need to change this to 1.4 for the rest of the steps to follow. Everything else is the same. Now, as I click through it, you'll see the card structure on the right changes. This shows me that we have a column set with an image on the left and then 2 text blocks on the right. If we look back at ours is a much simpler layout. Again, for this example, I'm going to have the logo at the top and then some text. So move this back off to the side. I'm going to simply click on column set 2 and then hit delete. It's gone. Now from the left, I can select image and drag it over here to where I want it. Now I can then come over here to the URL and paste in the URL of the logo that I'm going to use. Immediately it pulls it in. This URL is relative to SharePoint. It does exist here, so you will have to ensure that your users, this is an internal only app, and that your users have access to that site or they'll get a broken image. Now, next we want to have new duplicate contact. We can take this text and instead of having it be title, we could manually put it in there because we know what this is going to be every time. It's not going to change, it's static. Now here's the fun part. As we come down within adaptive cards in the element properties, we have different style types here. We can have different font types, different base types. This is a heading, so let's make it a heading. Let's make it bolder. We don't need a subtle. We could set it as accent. So now we're starting to get where we want. We want it to be good actually, because this is a notification. What size do we want? I want that to be bigger, so I'm going to make it larger. And now for horizontal spacing or horizontal alignment, I can also center it. I can do all of this within the GUI interface, and as you'll notice here, it's building out the code for me. If we go back to our example, the next portions are text. And let me pull it over so we can look at it. We have the name of the person who reported it, when they reported it. So this portion here is going to be static. The rest is going to be from the original submission. Static information again here, and this is where those columns are coming into play. And then a button with full report details. I'm going to flesh this out and then we'll come back and look at the adaptive card. So this is a little crowded, but I wanted you to be able to see what we're doing and what we're trying to recreate. On the right, I have the adaptive card GUI, and the left, what we're going to end up with. So the nice thing is I can take a text block and just click and drag. Now I could leave all these text boxes because we're going to have a few of them and just say new text box, but I want to know which one this is. So I'm going to click over here to text and say submitted user. That changes the text actually in the payload, so then when we come back we can see it. We're also going to make this one bold. Keep the size the same, make it bolder. And then here we're going to have some static text and some dynamic text. So I'm going to copy the text, come over here and date submitted, again for my reference. Now we're going to add another text block, static text again. Now here's where we get into fun. This is a set of two columns. So I'm going to grab column set and drop it on the card where we want. Now you see it only gives me one item here. This little drop down here is how you add a column. So we have one empty column, now we have two columns, exactly what we want. Static text again for the first one, but we have to add text there first, a text block. Paste in the text. This we want to be bold. Weight, bolder. We could give it a color if we wanted. And then in the right one, this is another text blocks of the duplicate record. Now, how do we add another row here? It's not really very clear. If we click on the column set and click this again, it'll give us 3 columns, not what we want. It's so much simpler than that. We take a text block and we just click and drag it. This took me a little while to figure out. I'm not used to things being that intuitive. Bring one over here as well. Static text again, link to potential duplicate record. Come down, make it bold. And then I've reversed these on accident, so what do we do here? We just swap them. And this one here is going to be the link. Oop. There we go. This one is going to be the link. Now onto the button. For this example, I'm not going to get into deep linking. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to do a video on that later. I'm going to grab the HTML for this, change the text on the button from view to view full report details. And then the icon URL is the code for the deep link. Again, we'll get into that later. Now we have all the code that we need right here. Let's take that back into Power Automate. Here we are back in Power Automate on my desktop. I've already created the step for when an item is created. Our next new step is going to be post a chat. Or post an adaptive card in a chat or channel. And we're going to do this communication as a Flowbot, and we're not going to post it in a channel. We're not going to post it in a group chat. This is the acknowledgement to the end user. So it's going to be chat with a Flowbot. And because our initial step here is when an item is created, the recipient is going to be the created by email. Now we take the code from the payload editor in the designer and paste it in here. We're not done yet though. Now we have to go back through our code and add dynamic content where necessary. So the first part here is submitted user. So who submitted this record? We get rid of the placeholder text and we scroll down and we find the dynamic content for created by display name. We select that one. Now we have to scroll back up. Microsoft Calisthenics, you scroll down, you scroll up, you scroll down, you scroll up. So here we just want to make sure that we have the quotes on either side of the dynamic content. Now reported on date submitted. Now what we had here was the friendly date. So I'm going to delete this and we're going to scroll down. We're going to do an expression. And here we're going to do a format date time. And we're going to do the first paren. And then we're going to come back to dynamic content and I can't hit search now, so I have to scroll down when this item was created. So this is the date, but we want to format it. So within the paren, we do a comma, a single quote, and you'll notice it gave us the ending quote, and we're going to do a capital D as in dog, and that gives us the friendly date, the actual Sunday, May 1st, whatever the date may be. Here we have you submitted the following information. You will be notified. Potential duplicate record. This is why we put the placeholder text in there. There's a lot going on, and it's really easy to get confused. Some people put curly Q brackets. I just put text that I recognize. Potential duplicate record. I hit delete, make sure I have both quotes. And now here I scroll back down. Potential duplicate record. Scroll back up. Link to potential duplicate record. I just put that in the bolder column. That belongs down here. So I can't click and drag, I have to delete and then put my text back in. Luckily, I have the text in my other screen, so I can just grab it and bring it back. This was the header column. Dupe record. There's where I want to have my potential duplicate record. Link to potential duplicate record. Delete that, make sure I have both quotes. Link to potential duplicate record. That's it. That's how easy these adaptive cards are to create, and so much more user-friendly than sending someone an email that they may miss in all the confusion and all the other emails they get on a daily basis. This, they get in Teams, they're one pane of glass. Now, let's get into the more complicated step of doing a people picker in an adaptive card. Just as a refresher, here we have the Teams notification with the people picker. This is what we're going to create next. Luckily, Microsoft has made it very easy for us. They have a page specifically on people pickers in adaptive cards. I'll put the URL for this in the chat below as well. It gives us various popular scenarios, right? We have a reassignment scenario example. We're not going to do that in this case. We scroll down, here's the code for creating a people picker. If we scroll down some more, we can create a people picker with pre-selection of users, so you have people already in the field. Or if we scroll down more, we can have a people picker with static choices. For this use case, we're just going to use the example of a static people picker. So we grab the code, we go back to Designer, and in Designer, we make sure to change the target version to 1.4. We go down to the card payload editor, we select all, and we paste in the provided code. You'll see here that version 1.2 is what it's showing. However, because the target version that we've selected here is 1.4, once we start adding in our images here, the version's going to shift. So let's flesh out the card for our people picker notification adaptive card. We enter the image URL. We grab another people or another text box. We enter that here with the title, and the title is Remediation Assignment. And because this is what we want to catch people's attention with, we're going to make it large. We're going to make it, let's leave it as default. We're going to make it bolder. We're going to make it a good. And I think that'll do me. We need to center it as well. Then we're going to add another text block for created by. Another text box for reported on. And then we probably ought to have a button so that the person can review what they wanted, what the request was. So we'll grab an action set, we'll drop that in here as well, we'll add an action, and the action is that we're going to open a URL. Now what URL are we going to open? That's the deep link URL. Remember, comment below if you want to see that in action. Grab that text, and we add that in the open URI. The title is not going to be that, it's going to be see the reported item. And the URL is going to be our deep link URL. We don't want this to say people picker with org enabled. We want to change that to assign the remediation to, and then the submit button can still be submit. Now, if we go and look at the JSON code, remember JSON code is confusing when you start. It will get easier. There's the image to the logo. We have a remediation. We have the text box for the display name, the created date. We have our action set for the button to see the reported item. We have the remediation 2. And here we have the input picker, or the input choice set, which is our people picker. And you'll see there's one little thing here. Is multi-select. Do we want to allow multiple people to be selected here? In this use case, we don't, but you may want to. So I changed that to false. And you see how it changed it to a drop-down. So now we can only select one person. We're going to grab all this code, copy it, and take it back to Power Automate. In Power Automate, we're going to choose a different type of action here. We're going to post a card, but we're going to post a card and wait for a response because we're waiting for the team member to assign this task to somebody. So we're going to post it as Flowbot. We're going to post it in a channel. The message is going to be what we have in our clipboard. But first, let's assign these last things at the bottom. The team is going to be document remediation, and the channel is going to be general. Now that we have that part fleshed out, we need to do one other step. We need to rename this. And I'm going to rename it to rem card, remediation card. Short, it's sweet, and you'll see why in a minute. When we get this data back from Teams, we need to do an action. We need to get the user ID and post that into SharePoint so we have records. That's why we need that to be short and sweet. Now in our message, we're going to hit paste, scroll all the way back to the top, and let's look at the JSON code one more time. The more you look at it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. It's an adaptive card. The very first thing in here is an image of our logo. Then we have a text block with remediation assignment. That's our title, and we know that because it's large and bold. Now here we have where we need to add things. It's a text box, but we want the display name. So I delete the default data. I scroll down and we need to find the created by display name. Then Microsoft Calisthenics back to the top. Reported on created date. We'll select that and delete it. Scroll back down to the bottom. We're going to go to an expression. Format date time. Again, you could have whatever date format you like in here, but for this context, we wanted created in a friendly format. Sunday and the comma and the date. So then we do a single quote, capital D as in dog for friendly date. Now I'm sure a few of you are yelling at me before because I forgot in the previous step, in the previous shot, to add the ID in here for our deep linking. Again, comment below if you want to see a video on how to deep link. I've already gone back and changed it. Now here we have people picker is the ID of the input, and we have everything in here. You'll see this version is 1.4. Now let's save and let's test this. And I'm going to hit test, and I'm going to hit with one that I've already done. You see I've got a couple tests running, and then we go to Teams. You'll see I got a pop-up notification. I got a card or a chat. Here we have the chat with the information. Now if I go back to Teams, here we have our remediation. I can see the reported item, or I could select a person. Now if I select a person, I'm going to select Baron and hit submit. Now let's go back to the flow, and you'll see it's completed. Now if we look at the flow, this gives us a whole lot of really useful information. We're going to look at the raw outputs here. This gives us the information from the actions. This is the name of the people picker, and you'll see here it returned a big old gobbledygook of nonsense. That's really not going to work for what we need to pass the information back to SharePoint. So let's look at how we handle that next. So the next step is to get a user profile. So we'll hit next, new step, get user profile. And we're going to get user profile v2. And from here, we're going to write an expression. And this is case sensitive, so I'll put it in, make sure to put it in the comments. We're going to do a body. And what are we doing there? We're getting the body of rem card. And that's why it was so important that that step, the text was so short, because if we had to type in postcard, blah, 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 that would just be kind of crazy, right? So now we do a question mark, and we're getting the data. Remember when we looked at the output from rem card, we had data coming in, and it's data and then a question mark. I had to think about that way too long. And then the exact way that the people picker is spelled. And that should be it. So we add that into our get user profile and hit save. Now let's test it one more time. And over in Teams, I will assign it to Baron one more time. And here we see, get user profile. We got his information from his UPN, and we have his name. So now, the very last step would be to write that information back to SharePoint. Click New Step, Update Item. Have to fill in the required field. And remediation assigned to, click Add a Custom Value, and come down here to Mail. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Let us know your thoughts, questions, and any topics you'd like us to cover in future videos. Sharing is caring, so don't forget to share this tutorial with your fellow Power Apps enthusiasts. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep rocking Power Apps like a true pro. See you in the next video.